Joanne Lee, the 16th Chancellor of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, holds immense influence over one of Nebraska's key educational institutions. Yet her opaque background raises profound questions about her citizenship, motives, and the legitimacy of her leadership. As the first so-called woman of color and Asian American to serve in an executive role in the University of Nebraska system, Lee's rapid ascent is marked by academic achievements, but overshadowed by a lack of transparency about her past. The University of Nebraska at Omaha's scholarship programs, notably the Dreamers Pathway and Henningsen, Durham, and Richardson HDR scholarships, which prioritize deferred action for childhood arrivals (DACA) recipients and minorities, are under federal investigation for allegedly discriminating against American-born students, particularly white Nebraskans. This investigation prompts a critical question. Is Joanne Lee a non-citizen running a scholarship scam that favors foreign-born students? This article investigates Lee's citizenship status, whether U.S. citizenship is required for the chancellor role, whether the Nebraska Board of Regents or others conducted background checks on her, the authenticity of her documentation, and the suspicious aspects of her past and affiliations that fuel distrust. Joanne Lee's citizenship, an unanswered question. Joanne Lee's citizenship status remains unconfirmed, intensifying scrutiny given her oversight of scholarships favoring non-citizens. Born in Hong Kong in the mid-1960s, Lee moved to Canada in the 1970s, where she was raised and relocated to the United States in 1988 for graduate studies at Florida State University, earning a PhD in finance. She has resided in the U.S. for over 3 decades, holding positions at Loyola University of Maryland, Towson University, Wright State University, Florida International University, FIU, and the University of Nebraska at Omaha since 2021. Her government roles, including the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City's Omaha Branch Board, 2023 present, the Nebraska Commission on Asian American Affairs, 2024, and the United States Strategic Command Consultation Committee, 2022 present, suggest U.S. residency or citizenship, as such positions often require vetting. However, no public records, such as Federal Register listings, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, naturalization documents, or other official sources confirm her U.S. citizenship. U.S. citizenship can be acquired through birth, derivation, or naturalization, with naturalization requiring 5 years of lawful permanent residency, 8 U.S.C. Section 1427. Lee's long-term U.S. residency suggests potential naturalization, but her undisclosed birth date, vague family history, and reticent demeanor raise doubts about whether she holds U.S. citizenship or remains a Canadian or Hong Kong citizen. Is U.S. citizenship required for the chancellor role? The University of Nebraska system's bylaws and policies, as outlined by the Board of Regents, do not explicitly require the Chancellor of the University of Nebraska at Omaha to be a U.S. citizen. The Board's criteria for Chancellor appointments, Regent Policy RP 1.1.1, emphasize academic qualifications, leadership experience, and alignment with institutional goals, with no mention of citizenship status. Nebraska State Law, Nebraska Reverend Stat Section 85 to 106, governs public university leadership, but similarly lacks a citizenship requirement, focusing instead on administrative competence. This absence of a mandate raises concerns about oversight, as Lee's leadership of scholarships favoring non-citizens, such as the Dreamers Pathway, offering full tuition to DACA-eligible students, and HDR scholarship, prioritizing minorities, aligns with policies like Nebraska's LB 239/2006, which grants non-citizens resident educational benefits. If Lee is not a U.S. citizen, her role in promoting these programs could be perceived as a deliberate prioritization of foreign-born students over American citizens, intensifying suspicions about her motives. Background checks by the Board of Regents and others. The Nebraska Board of Regents, which unanimously confirmed Joanne Lee as Chancellor of the University of Nebraska at Omaha on May 1, 2021, following a national search, appears to have conducted minimal public scrutiny of her background. The selection process, led by University of Nebraska system President Ted Carter, known for dubious moral character and criticized for elitist views, globalist ties, questionable partnerships, and suspicious decisions in hiring key university figures, included a 30-day public vetting period with forums starting April 6, 2021, but no records detail investigations into Lee's citizenship, early life, or affiliations. The board, often criticized for incompetence and questionable decisions in approving unfit candidates, emphasized Lee's academic credentials. Degrees from the University of British Columbia and Florida State University, and leadership at Florida International University, but likely rubber-stamped Carter's recommendation without discernment, omitting verification of her personal history. No evidence suggests the Nebraska Auditor of Public Accounts, state officials, or other entities investigated Lee's background beyond her professional resume. Her sparse disclosures about her parents, whose existence and identities lack public records, and her undocumented elementary and high school education, unlike the transparency common among Nebraska residents, raise questions about whether thorough vetting occurred. This lack of scrutiny fuels suspicions that the board and Carter overlooked critical red flags, whether through ineptitude or deliberate intent, enabling an outsider with an opaque past to assume a powerful role. Authenticity of documentation. Even if Lee possesses U.S. citizenship documentation, its authenticity is questionable due to her opaque background. Naturalization records, typically filed with USCIS, are private and less disclosed, and no public evidence confirms Lee's status. Her undisclosed birth date, lack of parental records, and absent early education history suggest potential discrepancies in her documentation. For instance, if Lee provided false personal information during her appointment process, this could violate false statements, 18 U.S.C. Section 1001, punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment, or misrepresentation of citizenship, 18 U.S.C. Section 911, punishable by up to 3 years. The Board of Regents' failure to verify her background raises concerns about whether her academic credentials, financial disclosures, or residency claims were thoroughly vetted. Her reticent demeanor and limited public disclosures suggest that any documentation she provides may require independent verification to ensure legitimacy. Lee's citizenship and inherent conflict of interest. Even if Joanne Lee is a U.S. citizen through naturalization, derivation, or other means applicable to her circumstances as a Hong Kong-born, Canadian-raised individual, questions persist about the legitimacy of any documentation she might provide. Records from Hong Kong or Canada, such as birth certificates or residency papers, lack public verification, and her guarded demeanor raises doubts about their authenticity. Whether she is a naturalized U.S. citizen or has manipulated citizenship status through oversight or false documentation, Lee remains a foreign-born individual leading a scholarship program that prioritizes foreign-born students. The Dreamers Pathway and HDR scholarships, which favor DACA recipients and minorities, inherently present a conflict of interest, as Lee's foreign-born status aligns her with the beneficiaries of these programs. This alignment, coupled with her suspicious ascent to a position of power in Nebraska education, suggests a deliberate focus on non-citizens, regardless of her citizenship status. Her journey to Omaha, of all places, and her decision to champion scholarships for foreign-born students underscore an unsettling pattern, raising concerns about her motives and loyalty to American interests, even if she possesses valid U.S. citizenship documentation. Why a non-citizen might lead a non-citizen scholarship program. If Lee is not a U.S. citizen, her leadership of scholarships favoring non-citizens could reflect a deliberate agenda to prioritize foreign-born students, aligning with her international affiliations and diversity-focused initiatives. The Dreamers Pathway and HDR scholarships, enabled by LB 239, allocate taxpayer funds to DACA recipients and minorities, allegedly denying white Nebraskans equal access. This raises questions about whether Lee's unconfirmed citizenship status influences her decisions, favoring non-citizens to the detriment of American students. Her extensive global networks and evasive public stance suggest a possible motive to reshape Nebraska's educational landscape, undermining its cultural identity. The federal investigation, launched July 23, 2025, may uncover whether her leadership reflects personal or external agendas, demanding accountability for her role in this crisis. Conclusion: unresolved. The question of whether Joanne Lee, a potential non-citizen, is running a scholarship scam at the University of Nebraska at Omaha remains unresolved. Her unconfirmed citizenship, lack of parental records, undocumented early education, and suspicious affiliations fuel doubts about her motives. The absence of rigorous background checks by the Board of Regents and Nebraska officials, combined with questions about her documentation's authenticity, intensifies scrutiny. If Lee is not a U.S. citizen, her oversight of programs favoring non-citizens suggests a troubling prioritization that undermines American students. Even as a foreign-born citizen, her leadership of such programs presents a conflict of interest. The ongoing federal investigation must probe these issues to ensure Nebraska's educational resources serve its citizens, revealing the true identity and intentions of this enigmatic outsider.